So good morning, everybody. My name is Bennett Tchaikovsky. I am the accounting professor, and today we're going to be talking about if you are looking to become a licensed certified public accountant in California and you have a degree outside of the United States. Many of my students are in this situation. And so I've decided to call up one of the approved providers by the California Board of Accountancy, ACEI. And so with that being said, our disclaimer and copyright notice. The information and opinions in this presentation are those of the authors only and not the author's employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College and the South Orange County Community College District and the ACEI Credential Evaluation. Presentation is for educational purposes only. You can't hold us to anything. It does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. This presentation is copyright 2024 by Bennett Tchaikovsky and ACEI. And as is current as of today, which I believe is April 23rd. Sounds yes. Right. Any distribution without the author's prior written permission is strictly prohibited. So Jasmine, instead of going through and reading through this fun paragraph, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, like many of the your audience, I started as an international student. I'd studied my secondary education in the UK, and prior to that in Iran. I'm half Armenian, half Iranian, so I fully understand the plight of international students and what it means to go through this process.
Okay, so Jasmine, how many languages do you speak? It's got to be, you speak Farsi?
I try English and then Farsi. I have fifth grade education in Farsi.
No, it's okay.
And I speak Armenian.
Okay.
And then there's French and Spanish. And then after that, we call it credentialese. We kind of can speak the languages of academic credentials. So we sound like we know what we're saying sometimes, but yeah.
Well, and so, I always ask my students who learned either Arabic or Farsi, was it a difficult transition reading from right to left and then going from left to right? Is that a pretty difficult transition?
I started so young that
okay.
I don't think so. Not for me. I think that the earlier one begins. Both my parents went to school in England, so English was spoken in the household as their secret language. But my brother and I caught on very quickly, and we went to kind of a multilingual, a bilingual grade school, kindergarten. So it started early. Wow. My Farsi writing is very rudimentary, and Persian is such an art when you write. And one's education is really determined by how beautiful your handwriting is. So I don't have a really good handwriting, but my cursive in English is fantastic. I used to get a lot of A's in school. So
I know it's better than mine because whenever I write on the board, my students ask me if I can write them a doctor's prescription. Yeah, that's how bad that's why I use Excel for everything.
That's like my husband. I said you should have been a doctor, not a
there you go
person.
Awesome. So Yoli, our beautiful, so Yoli, you did this beautiful presentation here today. You created this from what I started with, which looks a lot better.
I did that a little snazz.
Yeah, and so we can't hire Yoli, only I can, or excuse me, sorry, ACEI. Right? So because this is absolutely awesome. So Yoli, just please tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Yoli Moreno, and I've been with ACEI now for about 10 years. Awesome. I'm based here in California. And then I do all the support with our admin and with our institutions, directly with the California board as well. So any of the licensing boards, all of our clients, I would be their contact person.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Okay. So why we have ACEI here today is that if you are looking to become a certified public accountant in California, and this again is something that a lot of my students kind of have questions about, is that if you have a degree or if you've taken units internationally, the California Board of Accountancy will accept those units. However, it has to be approved by a translation provider set forth by the California Board of Accountancy. And if I just take a quick look in terms of going through and looking at this. I'm just going to pause real quick. So I'm going to leave a link below to this, but what's very, very important, and I have this conversation with a lot of my students, is that the California Board of Accountancy, you cannot have your foreign credentials translated by anybody. It has to be by one of these different approved agencies. So as you see up here, academic professional, and obviously ACEI is right up here on top. And then you have these other agencies that are right over here. So no matter what you do, you need to make sure that you're going through and having, if you want to become a California CPA and you want those units to count, which they will, you have to make sure that your degree is being translated by one of these evaluation services. Okay, back to our presentation. Okay, so as we kind of go through over here and look about ACEI, so just kind of how long has ACEI been here for? How long has it been around? I think it's been around for quite some time.
Yeah, it was founded in 1994. So this is the year that we celebrated our 30th.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And we've been engaged in research on world education systems, as well as providing the credential evaluation service. That's the primary thing, that you can't just consider yourself doing evaluations without the research components. So we are all kind of continuing with our higher education when it comes to this aspect. Research, publications, presenting our research at professional conferences is essential to provide us the support we need and the expertise we need in evaluating credentials. And one thing I wanted to add was that the California Board of Accountancy has a very rigorous vetting process of companies that they want to work with. And every 5 years, is that correct, Yoli? It's every 5 years they have us go through this sort of re-vetting, or I would close to kind of an accreditation, to make sure that we are in line with their standards and what are our standards. So it's the list that you saw these are companies that have gone through the process, that have opted to go. There are some companies who choose not to, and therefore they're not.
No, and Yasmin, actually, what's really interesting on that point is that I see I see a lot of transcripts because I'm doing a lot of going through and trying to determine how students basically meet the Board of Accountancy educational requirements for California. And I've actually had a student who told me that, well, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, their translation provider was on the list,
Yes.
but it's no longer on the list. So, and I think you've been on the list for how many years with California?
From the get-go, from the start.
Yeah, so for 30 years you've been on that list. So if you're getting your degree translated by ACEI, it's not going to be going anywhere. Okay.
Just as a side note, when gosh, this is even prior to 1994, I met with the board, and I was part of kind of their task force to kind of come up with guidelines. And I said, I'll put myself, on the chopping block. You need to have some rigorous, review process. You can't just arbitrarily accept, even though ACEI is a member of a professional association that has already vetted us. So we belong to a professional association relevant to our field. But we also told the California board that, you exercise your own judgment in selecting. Just don't be too cavalier in just accepting.
Exactly.
So
cool. Awesome. So let's talk about becoming a CPA in California when you have that degree outside of the S. Yoli, I love the graphic. Again, I'm going to be calling you up. I need your help. I need your help. So again, the requirements to become a California CPA is you need a bachelor's degree in 30 semester units. And by the way, and this is what is really, really, and I should have just waited till I got to this slide, but I was still too excited. When you're going through and looking at your education, what this is really about is reducing the cost, because if you have a bachelor's degree in a foreign country, why spend the money, even if it's in English or anything else? Because if you're really looking at in terms of like saving that money, don't get another bachelor's degree, rather have yours translated and then do the classes in the United States. Another thing as well is that if you are looking for a degree, there are many different master's programs that would love to take your money. I'm just kidding. Provide you an education, right? I get to be at IBC where I say I'm $46 per unit in California. But again, when you're looking at if you need that terminal degree, obviously getting a master's degree is a great way to go. And because you're not going to be spending the cost of getting that bachelor's in the United States, which can be extremely expensive depending upon the school you're going to. Okay, so let's go through and talk about, now this is interesting to me. So there's a translation and evaluation. So just kind of walk me through it. So I got my degree from, I don't know, let's say the University of Tehran, which is a school that's in Iran, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I got my degree from the University of Tehran, and I was an accounting major over there. And I want to get those units accepted by the California Board of Accountancy. So what steps would I need to go through and take to get those items over to you, or kind of maybe talk about the translation and evaluation?
Sure. So we're very specific with differentiating what a translation is and what an evaluation is. Translation is literally converting a language from a document that's issued, let's say in Farsi or in French, into the dominant language of the country that they're applying to. So in this case, we're in the United States and English is our primary language. So the document has to be translated word for word, line by line into the English language. The translation does not do an equivalency of the academic credentials. And if a translator decides to do that, that's kind of going over and beyond their call of duty. And that's where we say, don't do kind of your interpretation of that credential. Simply state it as is, because the evaluator may not be fluent in the language that the document is issued, but they are fully versed in the educational system from which this credential has originated. So that's the big difference. So a lot of times our applicants get the two confused and they say, well, why do I need to get it translated? And we have to explain, if it's not issued in English, it has to first go through an official translator to get the document converted into the English language. But what we still do when it comes to evaluation, we still, that's what I said, we're familiar with credentialese. You know, we can even read Cyrillic alphabet if we're looking at a Russian document, or some Chinese characters, because we're looking for keywords. You know, do these characters look like the word for degree or diploma, or, you know, so forth. The evaluation is the most important step. Is now that we have the documents that are in the native language and supported by official English translations, we can now look at these transcripts and the degree or the diploma or the certificates and determine the level of this education. And once we've determined the level, we can then recommend a US comparable degree or diploma equivalence, and also report, this is, you know, a senior high school program, or this is a post-secondary program comparable to a 2-year community college, or comparable to a 4-year bachelor's degree, or even beyond. We evaluate credentials all the way to doctorate level. We evaluate professional degrees in the health sciences and law degrees, you know, engineering and so forth. So translation is the first step if a document is not issued in English.
Okay.
And then when it comes to us, then we do the evaluation. So we do work with a translation service that does the translation for us, but we as evaluators are not translators.
Okay,
we
actually,
do the assessment.
So if I got my degree issued from the American University in Afghanistan, which is in a foreign country,
right,
that does not need to be translated because the degree is in English. However, it's still, even if I got my degree from Oxford University or Cambridge, right, I would still have to get the degree evaluated.
Precisely.
Okay.
And you are correct. There are institutions that, even though English is not their native language or the official language of the country, there are institutions that routinely will issue transcripts in English, whether it's, let's say, the American University in Kabul or the American University in Cairo, or it could even be, you know, we have universities in Japan and in Korea and so forth. When they know their students are outbound to English-speaking countries, they automatically issue official transcripts in English.
Okay.
So we walk our applicants through that because
Right.
we're familiar with what's, you know, what language documents are issued. But if the native language, if the documents are in the native language, we definitely need to see them in the native language
Sure.
as well as a translation.
So I'm assuming in terms of the evaluation, one of the things that you're looking for is that, okay, was the American University in Afghanistan or the American University in Cairo, were they accredited?
Right.
Or do they go through some sort of accreditation process within their own country? And those are kind of things that you constantly be having to look at, because if for some reason, if a university, and that's obviously for Irvine Valley, we just went through our accreditation and, you know, it went well, at least I think so. I'm just kidding around. It went fantastic. It's one of those things where if if an institution becomes unaccredited, then you kind of worry about that those units may not end up counting, which is not something that anybody wants to see happen.
Yes, accreditation is the first step in the evaluation process. So we do check to see if a particular school is approved by that country's official authorities that do the vetting of the institutions. 99% of the countries, it's their Ministry of Education.
Okay.
They have a centralized body, excuse me, that does that. Then there are certain countries that have, similar to us, kind of standalone, non-governmental, but approved by the government entities that do the vetting. That is key because we are measuring the non-US documents, the non-US studies against accredited, regionally accredited institutions here in the US.
Okay.
So if a program and institution in a non-US entity does not carry official recognition by its country's official, you know, accrediting boards, we cannot recognize it as comparable.
Okay.
To programs offered here at the regionally accredited institutions. So it's very much kind of a scale, and we're trying to see if they balance, if it's equal. So that's a very key factor.
But I also have to assume too that, okay, obviously that's incredibly important, but at the same time though, you can't it would be if you were comparing oh, financial accounting in the US to financial accounting in Iran, because every single school, like a lot of schools in the United States, we have academic freedom, right? The same cores are being taught, but you can't say, oh, we're going on a line by line basis for, you know, that's impossible to do.
We don't get so we don't get that nuanced in the evaluation.
No,
we do recognize, as long as the institution is recognized,
right,
and its programs are overall kind of in this comparability factor, we will recognize it. The next step is looking at their credit hours, their hours of instruction, converting them into US domestic units of credit. For the California board, that's as far as the evaluation will go. For some other licensing boards, we also have to do grade conversions and grade point average, which California is not interested. As long as they've passed, that's all they care for us to list.
And one of the things I like about California, and obviously there are a lot of people are hating on our state right now, which is okay. Obviously ACEI is in Texas.
No, ACEI is headquartered.
Actually, Yoli's in California, but
we're all in California. Our mail processing is in Texas.
Okay, perfect. It's one of those things where, and I really agree with this philosophy, because I know that South Carolina, they will only accept upper division semester units as part of they'll accept a certain amount of lower, but they want a lot of it to be upper division. But in my mind, the CPA exam is the great equalizer, right? You know, we can translate your units all day, but you got to pass that CPA exam, and that is not pleasant. It's not a fun, learning how to cut, paste, and assemble. It is really, really tough. Or learning how to be a constant pain in the donkey.
Yes.
It's tough, right? So being a CPA. Okay, perfect. So, all right. So here we go. Some questions that I've been getting from my students, and I love it. Again, Yoli, this is awesome. Like the little question marks up here. That is awesome. Okay. So do you need an original degree? Do I have to have an original degree from my school?
If you had applied to us pre-COVID days, yes, but post-COVID, because we have now completely gone into this digital platform, and it's a very secure platform, we don't accept anything by mail unless it's some unique situation, and we will make an exception. So no original documents are required. And I later Yoli will also walk us through all these third-party platforms that now serve as delivering resources on
Awesome.
behalf of academic institutions. So we don't need the originals. We don't need original transcripts. What we do need is the applicants to provide us their official documents
Okay.
by uploading them on our platform. And they can also request to have their institution provided directly through us, or apply through one of those online platforms that Yoli will share. But we have become so digital in our world.
No, it's the way to go.
Yeah, and the hassle of original documents getting lost or
Oh yeah,
damaged.
no. That's yeah. And then so if I have my transcript, I could create a single PDF file
Correct.
and then upload that, and that could serve as my transcript to ACEI.
Correct. And there is a source that we sometimes refer to if we, for some reason, there's some discrepancy on the transcript and we want this to be verified, the responsibility is on the applicant. We recommend a verification company. They're based in the UK. They're very accepted and respected. They're called qualification check. Isn't that qualification check? Yes. And the applicants just upload their documents to them. They verify it, and then they send the verified document to us.
Okay.
And this is all done again electronically.
Okay, so if I have my original transcript,
Yes.
and it's obviously, and I know though too, because like whenever I'm applying for a job, like, or when I'm applying for a district, they say, well, we want a sealed transcript, right? So there's got to be some sort of protection. So if I'm sending over an open transcript, it would probably go to that UK agency first.
Correct.
They would go through and verify it and then send it back over to ACEI for translation and or evaluation.
Correct. So,
okay, perfect.
And their report very, very nicely identifies that the document went through the institution, the source institution, and they've confirmed that this person was a student from that date to that date, graduated on such and such. So it's a wonderful way of alleviating the hassle of obtaining your original or writing to your institution. All of that is now pretty much obsolete, even with countries that you wouldn't think. A lot of countries have adopted this method of delivering their academic documents to third parties like evaluation agencies.
Perfect. Now, only if the Angels would have done that with Shohei's translator, we would have learned that he never went to the University of California at Riverside.
Yeah, one of those.
There you go. Okay, so number 2 is absolutely not applicable because you will not be accepting those original documents, which absolutely makes sense. And so is there a type of evaluation that I need to choose? And you'll probably go over this when we get to that point. If I'm wanting to become a California CPA, is there a certain type of translation, or excuse me, a certain type of evaluation that I need if I'm, or I should say translation and or evaluation if I'm looking to become a California CPA?
Correct. The board does require their own format. So we
Okay.
do have a custom application for the California Board of Accountancy.
Oh, awesome.
So if you're visiting our website, you
Okay.
could just look at our forms and application and select California Board of Accountancy.
Perfect. Okay. And
Very
then
direct.
and so I also saw this too, like when I was helping out somebody apply to sit for the exam, when they were filling out the application, it's like, how does the CBA get your degree? How do you send the degree information to the CBA? Does the applicant basically said, oh, I had this translated by ACEI, here's like a reference number, or how does that happen on when I'm applying to become a CPA?
Well, on our end, once they submitted that application, since it's the custom app specifically for the California Board of Accountancy, we already know once that's completed, it's released directly to our contact electronically.
Okay.
On the student's end, I believe there's like a registration process for them, so they do need to contact the board and go ahead and complete any steps on their end.
Okay.
So
And
once they
there's
receive that report.
right. And I'm assuming there's like a unique identifier with each
Yes.
transcript. Okay. So you
Mhm.
would basically, if I was asked on the Board of Accountancy application, I would just basically put in that unique identifier.
Correct.
Correct.
Perfect.
So
Okay. And then obviously, are your documents say now, obviously, the digital documents are you have to go through. I don't even know what you have to go through, but I'm assuming it's a lot in terms of cybersecurity and everything else.
Mhm.
But it sounds like your documents are very safe with ACEI, correct? Or is there?
Yes, we work with a platform that came highly recommended to us by our IT department, and we're really satisfied with them. But they're very kind of that sort of high security type platform that is, excuse me, there's fire trucks going. Used by financial institutions and so forth. So we feel very good about them, but we still do our own in-house backup on, the old way of securing. So everything is backed up. So nothing can get lost, let's say. So we also
Okay.
have ownership of this. But they are secure and only accessible by ACEI.
Okay.
So even if we release something to an institution, it's very much a particular portion of that application. The institutions don't see the individual's application form,
Okay.
any communication between ACI and them. It's simply their evaluation report. And if they require the academic documents to accompany, then that goes with the evaluation report, which is what we do with the California Board. We provide them with the academic documents that were evaluated along with the official report.
And then this is kind of just a general question, but I've actually received this from students. So when I give my transcript to ACI for the translation and or evaluation, you're not sharing that information with the Internal Revenue Service. You're not sharing it with any other outside agency, with the exception of if you have to have like the agency in England confer with the school to confirm that the degree was actually issued. And then you're sending that data to the California Board of Accountancy. That's it. Right.
Right. And
There's
that's
no
why
way
even that verification, the responsibility is on the individual, the applicant, to
okay.
go through the qualification check, that verification source. We don't contact qualification check and say, hey, can you verify this individual's documents
Oh,
for
okay. So
us?
the qualification check is actually in the UK.
They're based in the UK, but applicant, John Smith contacts them and says, these are my documents. I'm giving you permission to verify them. Please send the results to ACEI.
Oh, okay. So Yoli, when we go through the very end, you'll
Mhm.
kind of walk us through that whole thing, how that process works then.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
But we do have a statement on our application that we reserve the right to contact an institution to obtain additional information. And a
Sure.
lot of institutions have online portals for verification.
Okay.
And they allow third parties. So by signing the application, and that's why we urge our applicants to read the application form and the
Yeah.
terms and conditions, because all of this is beautifully highlighted.
Yeah.
But there comes a time that we have to take that step because there could be something questionable about
Oh
a
no, I mean
document.
I think the bigger concern was something that this guy thought it was going to be reported to the Internal Revenue Service or to the federal government.
no.
And I got, dude, no, this is like
No,
you're
there's this whole
applying to
Family
become a
Rights Act.
CPA.
Yeah, no, we
You know,
don't.
it's like that, but you got your degree from a foreign country and
Right.
it has to be translated by an approved agency. And it's
Exactly.
like you're saving yourself. I mean, even if you're living at home and going to Cal State Northridge or any Cal State, it's going to cost you 40 grand a year.
Mhm,
Right. If you're
mhm.
living on campus, that's about 140, 150,000. So it's, yeah,
Correct.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, now once you come, and I'm asking the obvious questions, but once ACEI finishes its evaluation, then you send me over a PDF translation, correct? Or a translation, a copy of the translation. Excuse me, a copy of the translation and evaluation, correct?
Well, the
Yes.
translation is a separate service.
Okay.
So if the applicant actually has their translation already completed, they're able to submit that, or they would have to go ahead and request one in order to do the evaluation process.
Okay.
So they're submitting that to us with their
Okay.
official documents.
Okay.
But once the evaluation is completed, there is an option on their application form. So
Okay.
they can select to go ahead and receive that applicant copy. It is a fee for an email transmission, and it's $15.
Yeah. And by the way, everybody, you want that copy of your evaluation because in order to go through and assess your units, by the way, if you are, I'll leave my contact below. If you do need to have your mapping done, I do this for a lot of students every day of the week. As I showed to you when I contacted Jasmin and Yoli, it's like, really, Bennett, you want to do a video on this? Like, what are you talking about? It's like, you don't understand. I do so many of these and I get so many questions. It's like, really? Okay. Yeah, so that's okay. And going back over here so you definitely want to get a copy. How long does the process take to do the evaluation? So assuming that the translation's done, how long does the evaluation process usually take?
Yoli, go for it.
It's actually a very fast process since it's mostly all done online. So our application form's online. They'll go ahead and upload those documents. We receive the officials directly electronically as well. So once everything is received, that processing time is 7 business days.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's awesome. And now the big question. So obviously we know about the $15 email fee. So and obviously it depends upon the cost. So if I had the translation done,
Mhm.
what is generally going to be the cost to me to have the evaluation for the California Board of Accountancy take place?
Well, it also goes based on the number of credentials that they're submitting.
Okay.
So each degree, some people might have just a bachelor's and may have a second bachelor's or master's beyond that. So
Okay.
that first credential is 205.
Okay.
And then if they do have anything additional, each additional credential is 105.
Okay. That's great. So $205 versus $40,000 for an undergraduate education. I'll do the 205.
Thank
That's
you, Bennett.
perfect.
We try to remind people, think about the cost of
Oh my
1 unit
God.
of
It's like,
credit.
no, it's your time. You've already suffered through accounting
Yes.
courses once.
Right.
You don't need to
You
do
want
it
to do it again?
twice. It's terrible, right? Okay.
Oh,
And by the way, how many evaluations does ACEI? I mean, there's probably evaluations going on right now, but
yes.
how busy are you? I've got to imagine you have a pretty good flow of.
It's a good flow. It really goes, we used to think it's seasonal, but it's not.
Okay.
So it's also about just flow of students from certain parts of the countries,
Right.
kind of parts of the world. So the numbers could vary, but it's in the hundreds
Okay.
each month, and
Wow.
it could exceed. But we have a good solid pool of senior evaluators, and we have those who are independent, kind of are freelance evaluators. So on a need be basis, we can expand or
Sure.
contract or so.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
just out of my own, this is just for my own personal curiosity. So I had a student who got their bachelor's degree in India.
Mhm.
And in India, it looks like that a bachelor's degree, because their high school education is way up there, but their bachelor's degree, I think it's only 3 years. Does that sound
Yeah.
right?
They typically have a degree called a BCom or Bachelor of Commerce
Yes.
in accounting, and those degrees are 3 years.
Okay.
And there was a period, very short period, that some Indian universities experimented with a 4-year degree,
Right.
but they had their hands slapped by their University Grants Council. This is the body that accredits universities in India and gives them funding.
Okay.
And it's a funding issue. And they said, do not turn this into a 4-year degree because you're going to lose all your funding. So they reverted back to the 3 years. And we are kind of the bean counters when it comes to evaluating credentials. We look at 3 years of education elsewhere comparable to the 3 years of education here. So no matter how wonderful the institution is or how rigorous the coursework was, it's 3 years of study. So if it's at the undergraduate level, we match it against the 3 years of undergraduate here, but not a bachelor's, unless The United States, our accredited universities decide to offer 3-year degrees. And, there is talk about that.
Right.
That is happening. So that would mean we may have to completely change the way we look at 3-year degrees. But right now, 3-year degrees from various countries are comparable to 3 years of undergraduate education here in the US.
So here's a great question, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but if I went to, so I had a student that I was doing this translation for, or she had done her translation, and it came back with like 99.5 units, which is not a bachelor's degree of 120. Well, the California Board of Accountancy, because it says Bachelor's of Commerce, do they consider that to be a bachelor's degree?
No.
Really?
No, they want the evaluation to state that Bachelor of Commerce is actually comparable to a US bachelor's degree in business, and that at least it has 120 semester units of credit for it to be considered a bachelor's, but they also need that extra 30 for that 150 total.
So if I had a student who came from India and she had like 99.5 units, I'm assuming that because the Board of Accountancy, and she has the 24 accounting and 24 business, there's no question about that. But I'm assuming that if she applied to the California Board of Accountancy, and I'll find out from her when she does, they're going to say, well, a bachelor's degree is 120 semester units. So you have this Bachelor's of Commerce. Would she need to get another bachelor's, or could she just get another 20.5 units at a community college, or is that something?
It still won't, no. And here's what we have recommended to our, let's say a student coming from India. If they have done their 3-year program, it is to their advantage to do maybe an online course through one of their accredited universities in India and get what is called a postgraduate diploma. It's a 1-year program. That postgraduate diploma requires for admission completion of the 3-year BCom. That 1 year plus the 3-year BCom will then be recognized as comparable to a US bachelor's degree. Or some of them do a 3-year BCom plus a 2-year MCom, a Master of Commerce. Then we combine the whole thing together and we say this is an integrated bachelor master's degree. So, but a 3-year on its own won't. But a 3-year plus 1, a postgraduate diploma, most definitely will be recognized as a bachelor's. And many of our applicants do that route. And they do offer these programs online, so they don't have to go back home to India if they're already here.
Is it relatively inexpensive, or is that a pretty expensive degree? Or
I don't believe nothing compared to the US. Absolutely.
Well, is it like a US community college, or is it
and if they're applying to one of their state universities in India, it's probably going to be subsidized. So I doubt it. Yeah.
Awesome. Now here's another question I had, which was, if I earned my degree in a country that is not accessible, right? So and this goes back to the American University in Afghanistan. Now, if the student, and so if you're obviously running into this issue, if the university no longer exists, before they went out, did they somehow teleport or did they somehow transfer their records to somebody so that the information could be verified? Or what happens when your university is no longer there?
The American University in Afghanistan actually tried, because I think from what I know, is the president of the institution, right when the US forces were pulling out, they were literally shredding documents because they did not want evidence of their students or anything. I think they had tried to upload some things to a cloud-based service, but they were shredding their documents. I attended a conference where they were saying it was down to the wire. So with countries such as Afghanistan, and there's a few others, we are fortunate enough to have in our digital archives sample records, sample transcripts, sample diplomas from high school all the way to university level. And we do this sort of, I mean, we become forensic
Wow, that's no,
scientists
I know where you're going with that.
you
That's
know, so we do a
wow.
lot of kind of comparisons. We look at watermarks, we look at signatures. We have publications that show who was the president of that institution at that time, who was the registrar, who was the dean, and we can see if these diplomas match.
Yeah.
And if the signatures match. So it's a little bit more, we have to kind of roll up our sleeves and dive in because these are not coming directly to us from the institutions. We are accepting the documents presented to us by the individuals. So we do that sort of verification. Right before the kind of the transfer of powers, I guess, to the Taliban, we were able to get documents verified very easily with the Ministry of Education in Afghanistan and the institutions. But right now, this is the only way that we have. And then we work with our colleagues that are members of our professional association, not so much in sharing the documents, but kind of asking the questions that an evaluator will ask. You know, can you tell me, do you have information on this institution? Can you tell me who the dean was? And so we have that sort of pool of experts that share their knowledge and the resources they have. So we're fortunate to have that sort of camaraderie in our field, that we support each other because we also want to help these individuals. This is not their fault. They're kind of caught in this.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely terrible. So
yeah.
Again, I see a lot of stuff. It's kind of cool, but I don't know some things, and I'm learning a lot today, which is very exciting. Okay, so let's go through, and Yoli, if you want to kind of take us through, we're going to prepare our documents, which means we're going to basically do the we're going to basically go through and do that PDF. Let's try to see if we can make this work. And I'll do a new share here.
Okay.
Okay.
Open.
So awesome. So I'm going to come, and by the way, are we okay with me sharing the or I shall ask that offline at the very end. So coming over here, so what would be the first thing that I would go through and do? I would basically, I'm an individual.
Well, actually, since this is specifically for the California Board, let's
Okay.
go directly to them. So under forms and applications,
Okay.
we would go ahead and go application forms and select California Board.
Oh, okay. California Board of Accountancy application. Perfect.
And so once we're on that, it's going to take us and open up to a landing page just for the board. So all the information that they need to know, they would find it right here.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So then over here, course by course. Okay, so two of course, additional for each additional credential. So then where would I go to? So I want to get my degree translated. So where would I go to? How would I go next? Where would I go to next?
So if we go down here.
Start application form.
Well, first, they'll want to review this information.
Okay.
So they're
See, I'm just signing everything, and I'm an attorney. I'm not reading your legalese. I'm way too trusting, right?
No.
Okay. So what would I want to go through and review first?
Just for them, just for the applicant themselves, like to answer any of the questions that they have, they're going to want to know, hey, what documents am I gathering? So just required documents will outline that information. Yeah. So if we go down, we're outlining what a transcript is, what a degree is, what a translation is. So all that information is located here. So they know exactly what they're going to go ahead and gather together and submit for us.
By the way, so Southern New Hampshire University, is this a U.S. document, or is this this is a U.S. institution, right? Southern New Hampshire. Okay.
Yes. So it's just one of their requirements.
Okay. All right. So coming over here. Oh, so if I did my degree at Southern New Hampshire University, you actually have to translate that?
No, we work with Southern New Hampshire, so they actually just have a specific requirement we outline up for everyone.
Okay. That's fine. I did a mapping for somebody who went there. I didn't know if they had to go through
Okay.
and do something else. Okay, so electronic documents and then the verification. What else would I want to click on? Like, so,
That's a good, the country requirement, we could
okay.
look at that.
Mhm.
This kind of gives you, here's what we've just talked about Afghanistan, so this is kind of
Right.
how we guide them, how
Okay.
to present. Belize is one country, for example, where we absolutely need the official documents to come to us directly from the institution,
Okay.
not via a third-party platform. And the reason is that we caught a huge string of fraudulent documents
Oh,
several years ago, and we were working with state boards of nursing to verify these documents. Yeah, it was
wow.
a string of fraud claiming to be nurses. So
I thought I only caught cheaters at my class.
oh
This is more,
no,
this is,
sorry to say, yeah, this became a national.
this is actually a little bit more serious.
Yeah, this became a
Educational
national
fraud.
thing.
This is real
Yes.
education fraud.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would come over here. Wow. Cuba. Wow. Okay.
Cuba is a complicated case because and unfortunately lots of fraudulent documents were coming through the system. So as you can see, they have to go through
Wow.
any one of these sources to get documents verified.
Wow. Okay.
India is pretty straightforward.
Okay. Iran.
Iran, there is a portal that they can go through to get documents verified. That's iffy. It all depends with, the political climate. Sometimes they're very helpful, sometimes they're not very helpful.
Wow. By the way, I have never been to Iran and I really, really want to go. I've just heard it's the most beautiful place.
I left when
Okay.
I was such a kid, so for me,
Yeah.
I'll be a tourist.
Yeah.
I'd love to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Italy. So some of these countries, it's more about some additional documentation we want, and I'll just use Italy as an example. Italy has a 13-year system in terms of elementary and secondary. And so for the 13th year, we recommend, advanced placement credit.
Okay.
So we do request them to submit documentation for that. So a lot of times they ask, well, what do you need my high school for? And we tell them it's because you get some advanced standing credit, which if you're applying for a CPA is fantastic because you want
Right.
to have all the credits.
Oh, yes, yes, you do. All units are great. Okay, so we got Nigeria.
Nigeria, they can, again, this is one that either has to come direct from the institution or they can go through the qualification check, which is the verification.
Okay, and then we have the UK.
Right. The UK also has a 13-year system if they're
Okay.
going to university. So we also we would like to get their 13th year exam results because again, gives them credit.
Okay, and then obviously Ukraine is kind of in an interesting situation right now, but it's still obviously you're able to do those translations for those in the Ukraine.
Because they were a step ahead and they were already partnered with some of those third-party platforms that are, excuse me, based in Europe. So transcripts can still be obtained. Transcripts can still be verified online. So it's this Ukraine, we're very grateful for that because we can easily assist the students coming from that part of the world.
Awesome. And so I can basically, when it has a click here, if I'm from the Ukraine and I want to get my degree translated, I'm assuming I would and this would give me additional information, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, okay, perfect. So electronic documents.
And this would be good to look at. So here's a little bit more detail. These are all these third-party recognized platforms that universities work with. So let's say if you're coming from Canada, you will be going through that entity called mycreds.ca. All the universities in Canada participate with this, and they can then request their official transcripts through them to be delivered to us.
Okay, so and there's going to be a fee for this, correct? Like
some fees, sometimes no fee. It really depends on what sort of a education system the country has, if it's privatized or if it's more national.
Okay.
They also always have the option of going directly to their institution and requesting these documents be sent directly to us.
Okay.
But in that case of for whatever reason I'm not able to contact my institution, they're non-responsive, these are platforms that would assist them in doing that. So these platforms would they would have to check directly for whatever that additional fee is. But
Okay.
it's for that additional service of retaining and submitting their documents on their behalf.
Okay, so one of the steps I'm going to have to do then, so if I have my bachelor's degree in China,
Mhm.
I'm going to need to go here first to basically get my request for them to go through and then to send to ACEI the transcript in
Mhm.
either English or in the regular basic, or just to send the transcript to ACEI.
Yeah, but it's
ACEI
from
would then have a translator, or if there's no translation required, then it would just do the evaluation.
Yes.
Okay.
With China, the universities will not issue transcripts directly to us or any entity outside of China. They have to go through this body to get their
Okay.
transcripts.
Okay.
And they will issue them in English. They'll come in English and in Chinese.
Okay. Oh, so this is really up to the student to go through.
Yeah, this is
okay.
the issue of privacy. So the responsibility is on the student
Okay.
to procure all their documents. This other entity called Digitary, they're
Wow.
pretty big. They serve a large number of
136 countries. That's impressive.
I
Wow.
think they partnered with Parchment or Information Clearinghouse. It's one of the two.
By
They're
Parchment. Okay.
they're the US based
Wow.
yeah, so they're big. They're big.
Okay. All right. Okay. So electronic documents and then the verification.
This is that entity in the UK that does called qualification check.
Okay. But do I have to so if I get the electronic documents sent to you, do I also have to do the verification?
No.
Okay, so I can either I just have to make sure that something gets to you from my basically, okay.
Yeah, as you can see, there's so much available. So when an
Yes.
applicant says, I can't, it's almost next to impossible. But when you
Right.
have all these opportunities, I think that I can't really come down to countries like Afghanistan, sometimes Syria.
Okay.
Other than that, there's so many opportunities available.
Okay, so yeah, so essentially what I'm going to have to go through and do is first get the electronic documents sent to ACEI. If it's in the UK, it's through this verification process, but I have to go through and get the electronic documents. So if I have my degree, say I don't know, if I have my degree here, like in Australia, then I would need to go here first. And then I would ask ACEI to go through and to do that translation.
Correct.
The evaluation.
The verification body that's in the UK, they're just based in the UK, but they serve individuals from around the world.
Okay, so why would I use the verification versus the other ones? So why would I choose is the verification something like, well, I got my degree from the American University, Afghanistan.
It could be that, or it could just be, I mean, we give the students all the options. Sometimes they say, I don't want to go. I mean, I don't understand the reasoning, but someone may say,
it's the kind of questions I get.
Right.
It's like,
they may say, well, I have my original. I don't want to go through these third parties to get another set sent to you. Then we say, fine, then go through qualification check, because they will present your originals to your institution, but electronically. And they will get it verified, and we get the verified statement.
Awesome.
So it's another option. And if they don't want to go through third-party platforms to get another set of documents, this is a good choice.
So it's either or on one of these two. And then this is obviously the report that ACEI, this is what I've seen so I see all the time. It's nice. Okay. So right. So this is and what I will have my students do is I ask them to take this information here and put it onto a Microsoft Excel sheet, actually a Google sheet.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then, so then I can basically say, oh, business management, this is a business subject. Korean
Mhm.
writing, this could be accounting study part, like one of those 3-unit ones. Okay. Yeah. Accounting principles, that's an accounting subject.
Yeah.
Organizational behavior, that's for ethics, all those kind of fun things. Okay,
You
cool.
know, Bennett, a few years ago, the California board required us to categorize the subjects on the evaluation report.
Wow.
You know, put it under, you know, accounting, list all the accounting, business, list
I,
all
I,
economics.
that's
Then,
crazy.
and
That's
then they came and said, just list it in the order that you see it on the transcripts.
yes.
And so this is
No,
back
and
to that.
and actually that's good
Mm-hmm.
because I've actually, when a student is going through, and even like when I'm going through and doing it, I'll actually look at the course description online
Yes.
and
Mhm.
say, well, wait a second, even though it looks like a business, it actually has accounting in the course description,
Yes.
which is, yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Perfect. Okay. And processing time, we said it was about a week.
Right. And they have a choice to also
Obviously, depending upon your receipt of the documents from these two, correct? Because you
Sorry
can't do
about
your
that.
job. You can't do your job without getting it from either the verification or the electronic, having it sent to you, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. And then over here, I would just go ahead and start my application form. I up here, this again, this is for the California Board of Accountancy. I would just go through and fill this through.
Mhm.
Academic history, university, college level education, and all this. And then over here, I would be accepting this right over here. Okay. And then obviously, if you want rush service, and so again, usually it's going to come back within 7 days.
Mhm.
Definitely. The only
Yeah.
time things get delayed is if the documentation is incomplete.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I would not, and I guess it's kind of like, even if you have like, even if you pay for rush service, like the Board of Accountancy is still going to take, I think it's their, what about, is it,
Yes.
what is actually when Ray or when BEC was going away, that was like
Mhm.
when the gold rush was happening. It's like,
Mhm.
it's taking us 8 weeks to get things, our applications through. I'm assuming it's kind of back to normal again, right?
You know, no news is good news. So when
There
we
you
don't
go.
hear
Yeah.
back from the board, we know
Perfect.
that they have received it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So, and then I would want to, obviously you have to pay $15 to have it sent to the Board of Accountancy, but you also want to have it emailed to you. So then you can kind of get a better jump on the fact of, oh, these are the courses I'm going to go through and do.
I think it's absolutely
Yeah, because
important to have your copy.
because you can't get it from the Board of
Right.
Accountancy won't release it, but
Right.
you can get it from, right. You want to kind of see what it's going to happen there
Mhm.
beforehand.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay. It's actually not that bad of a process. I thought it'd be a lot worse. I thought it'd be like going to go see the dentist and be, one of those kinds of things. So,
No, it's,
okay.
and with all the options that are available now to get the credentials from your institutions, and it's just kind of putting your portfolio together properly and uploading. Other than that, our process is quick if we have all the right documentation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we just kind of went through and we talked about these different options over here and talked about the translation. And I think that's, hold on. Okay. So we've gone through, we just went through all of this right over here. And now this is always like, I love having fun with, and we've kind of touched on a few of these, but have you had any really crazy evaluation stories? Like, did you ever, obviously the educational fraud that was happening from nursing programs in Belize, but any other wild things have you caught, like being the forensic evaluators that you can share generically?
Oh, I mean, Yoli and I were just talking about this. They're endless, but diploma mills, these are kind of non-existent institutions that operate through a website and people pay a fee. Sometimes a few hundred, sometimes a few thousand, and they get they order a degree. They order a degree and they order a transcript, and these institutions do not exist, but they they operate because legally they, anyone can set up a fake institution.
Sure.
They have also set up fake accreditation bodies. And they've also set up fake evaluation services. So
Wow.
just when you think you're
Full
going,
circle.
so
That, that sounds like a lot of work for
It
just
is,
getting,
but-
I mean, it's
and there's a big diploma mill, I guess, operation based in Pakistan. The New
okay.
York Times did a huge expose on them,
Okay.
and they are incredibly dangerous. And they're the type that once the person has obtained their fake diploma from them, they will not let you go. They kind of extort you. They go back and say, you have to pay us X amount, or we'll notify your employer, or we'll notify so-and-so.
Wow.
So once in a while, one of these sort of credentials comes our way. And
Interesting.
our policy is, as soon as we encounter a degree or a credential that is fraud or is from a diploma mill, we cancel the evaluation. We report it to the individual that the documentation you provided have been determined to have been falsified, they've been verified by the institution, or they're deemed to be a diploma mill. And then we report our findings to the members of our professional association. So at that point, that's the only time that we will release information. We can even take this a step further.
But I was going to say, but you're not releasing the student's individual information. Rather, you're revealing that the institution or that where the school, these credentials are bad. Okay. And then I meant to ask you, so do you find, are people like, are people trying to get fake degrees to apply to become a CPA?
Yes.
Really?
I was an expert witness on 2 occasions. One was person who had claimed to have a degree, a PhD in landscape architecture from Oxford University.
Wow.
But Oxford does not have landscape architecture. And he had, apparently it destroyed an entire neighborhood in Santa Barbara. And the homeowners had brought suit against him. And the lawyers representing the homeowners wanted an expert witness to testify that this person's academic documents were falsified.
Wow.
So of course, I said, Oxford doesn't offer landscape architecture, and the documents weren't even issued by Oxford. It was an Americanized looking transcript. So these are the kind of situations. So individuals with these fraudulent credentials can really bring harm to communities by, there was another person who claimed to have had a medical degree with a specialty in psychiatry. And that was a disaster. So these are the kind of things we see. And unfortunately, we've done a lot of research and presentations on this and found there are several people within government offices, high-ranking officials, not just here in the US, but around the world, who hold fake degrees. Literally fake degrees, not even from a legitimate university that they've, fabricated something on their transcript. So this is an epidemic, and I think it's a few $billion. So it's a huge money-making industry.
Wow.
And as soon as the FBI or Interpol shuts one down, another one opens up. So our part as evaluators, that's why I said being accredited, making sure that an institution is accredited is priority.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to retract an evaluation where you did one and then you found out later that it was fraudulent, or is that not really?
We once in a blue moon, we do auditing. We audit something because we find out through our sources, be on the lookout for credentials from XYZ country because there's been a spate of fraud or something like that. So we do audit to see. We have not retracted evaluations. The only time we rescind an evaluation is if an applicant actually contests the results of their evaluation because they just disagree. For example, let's say a 3-year degree. They say, no, mine is a bachelor's degree. I don't care what you say. And they cancel, they what is it? They dispute their fee with the credit card or something like that. When they do that, then we rescind the evaluation.
Okay.
For example, if it's for the board, we tell them we're rescinding this because the applicant has, withdrawn their funds, and we don't, we're closing this account. So please don't
Wow.
make any judgments. So that has happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you never get sued, because the only person who wins in lawsuits are attorneys, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm half attorney, so I can say that. All right. So, wow.
And our evaluations, at the end of the day, we say they are advisory. You're asking us for our opinion, and we are giving that opinion based on, and we support it with a lot of published information. So it's not just, Jasmine woke up today, or Yoli or one of our evaluators, and decided this is how I'm treating this degree. No, there's precedence.
Yeah.
And there's established guidelines. There's material that we base this on. So we don't arbitrarily just quote an equivalency. And that's why in the evaluation on the very end, we have a section that says references.
Right.
So we cite our sources.
Okay. And I guess on that front, like, what has been like your most unique evaluation that you've ever done? Like, has there been one thing that you really had to go through and dig through to figure out, I've never heard of this university before, but you had to, have you ever encountered something like that?
This happen every now and then, but and I always say, gosh, I thought I'd seen this, or when we're discussing it with evaluators, we think, oh, we've seen it all, and then something new comes up. But what is happening more often now are what we call transnational education, which is you do part of your study in one country, and then you continue it at another country, and then there's these sort of partnerships between these two education systems. Sometimes the first institution may not have a full accreditation, but the second one that is offering the program does have accreditation. So that's where things become murky. And I'll just make this up, but for example, a student goes to an unaccredited institution in country Y, but that institution has partnership with a very reputable institution in the UK. And that UK institution is approving the courses at this unaccredited institution. So they have this sort of dual degree program. So that's where things are, how do we assess this? So our policies have been, we lean toward, of course, the institution that is accredited and only recognize the subjects that were validated by the accredited institution.
Okay.
And not the subjects that were done at the non-accredited one that were not validated. So that's where things get a little bit dicey.
And obviously this isn't a pre-digital world, but what's the most beautiful college degree presentation or most elaborate thing you've ever seen? Like, which country has the cool, or what university has what are some of the countries that have some of the most, or universities that have the most beautiful presentations? Like, is Cambridge like this very special one, or Oxford, or how do they, like, which one has the most elaborate degree presentation that you've seen?
I remember when I first started with ACEI and receiving these documents by mail, and just receiving these large packages, and I remember looking over at Jasmine like, what are we receiving? Because it was really rare to receive something like that, because they're older documents. And I would open it up, and it was a degree from Mexico, and it was very large. It's like practically like 2 feet by 2 feet.
No way.
And it's printed on. Then I would feel the document, and it felt completely different from any other document. And I was like, "What is this?" And I believe Jasmine told me it was a goat skin.
Wow.
So their diplomas were printed on goat skin. They look beautiful, and they would have like their gold seals and everything, and very large.
I mean, could you imagine getting that and then be responsible for that?
I wouldn't want to be. It's like, no, I don't want to be responsible for that at all.
So we're we're curators at a museum, and you're thinking, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Well, thank God for online degree
I
and
know.
everything is electronic, so I don't have to worry about losing my goat skin.
I remember
Wow.
our mail person was never happy when he had to deal with returning those documents because oh gosh.
Oh, you got
yeah.
to package them up and make sure that
Oh,
they're
registered mail, signature required. I mean, all
oh,
sorts of bells and whistles. Yeah.
wow. And this is just, it's like a so you obviously, how many boards of accountancies throughout the United States do you do the work for? Do you do all 50 or do you do
No, unfortunately, no, because the boards kind of formed their own professional evaluation company, NASBA, the National Association for State Boards of Accountancy.
okay.
That body some years ago kind of started their it was the professional association for the state boards, and then they decided they could set up an evaluation department and cater to the state boards. So they pretty much kind of pushed the private individual companies like us out of that practice.
Hmm.
So we are only primarily do the evaluations for California and Virginia board because all others goes right through NASBA.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So NASBA has to go through its own, they have to do like their own accreditation and everything else. Wow.
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know about
Okay.
that. I think because of their relationship with the boards, they may have a whole different um, standard. They
Okay.
do occasionally refer applicants to us. I never understand why, but it could be that they couldn't do it and they're referring it to us, which is very nice of them.
Yeah.
But I really, I can say it's Virginia board and definitely California board.
Okay. And
Yeah.
everybody else is using NASBA. That's bizarre.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
To each their own. It's
To
always
each their
exciting.
own. I know. I know.
So, I really want to take the time to thank Jasmin and Yoli. Thank you so much, so
Thank
much
you. Thanks so much,
for being
Bennett.
here with us today. And I know that my viewers are really going to be enjoying it. They're going to say, "Oh, Bennett, you've got another 80-minute video. That's really exciting." But honestly, I think for a student that is entrusting their evaluation
Mhm.
to a third party, and you got that degree in that foreign country, and I think it's really important for them to know that I at least feel with ACEI that I feel as though if I was to be, I would be using you to get my degree from a foreign country translated.
Well, and
So
kudos
thank
to
you.
you, Bennett, for kind of taking the initiative to helping your students as you are.
No,
This is
I
really
get
wonderful.
honestly, like when I saw, I met with a student who was from India
Mhm.
last
Mhm.
week, and now I got to tell her, it's like, you may need to go get another degree, but that's because she has like the bachelor's of commerce.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like I'm always learning as well, but I really do, it's very important because I don't want someone to pay for an education twice.
No, I
And
fully
when
agree.
you're looking at 200, this is your new pitch.
Mhm.
$205 plus the 15, like we'll call it 300 even,
Mhm.
or 40,000, or 50, $60,000. I mean, it's a pretty upfront, it's a pretty straightforward choice,
Correct.
in
Correct.
my opinion. Okay, so
And for your Indian applicant, please tell them that there's the option of going through an online program for a postgraduate diploma through one of their accredited universities would be the best way to
awesome.
tag that on to the 3-year.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for
Thank you.
watching and liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on future videos.
Thank you so much.